Welcome back to the Mosaic Sampler, Cal. We're now ready to create our borders. So we need to create this slip stitch row before we can actually start our borders. We changed to a number 5.5mm hook because it allows us to actually make the slip stitches slightly larger, and this allows us to get into the front and the back a little bit easier because it is quite tight getting into those back stitches. My pattern's telling me that it's colour D, and where that red block is where I actually start, which is 3 stitches in from the side. I'm counting the stitches in 1, 2, 3, and I insert my hook into the front of that slip stitch from the very last row. I secure my first stitch with a chain, and then I'm going to create slip stitches all the way along using the front loop of the slip stitch on the previous row. This can be quite difficult to pick up, especially considering you've got to go all the way around, so do just persevere. I must admit I had a very sore finger by the time I finished it because I tend to use my nail to pick things up. You can see that I'm doing that here, but do persevere. You can see that the front stitches look very different from the back stitches. The back stitches have got little lines, and this is what we will be picking up on when we do our back border, and then we go into the top of that loop for the front border. Keep crocheting with your slip stitch all the way to the corner, and I've added stitch markers with yarn every 10 stitches so that I'm very aware when I get to the border how many stitches that I have left. I was just confirming that I've 10 stitches there before I chain my 2 stitches to go around the corner, and then I'm ready to start slip stitching into the side. You're actually slip stitching in between the different rows now that we're on the side of the blanket. You can see that there's a natural hole that you can actually sort of find to be able to stick your hook into. We're looking for a nice even row of slip stitches with the 2 chains going round the corner. Keep going all the way around with your slip stitches. There's over 800 stitches all the way around. Bit tedious, bit sore in the fingers, but keep going and remembering to keep adding those 2 chain every time you come to the corner to give you a nice even corner. When you get back to the first stitch, you are ready to join to that very first stitch. So finish off our last 2 stitches, snip off our yarn and pull it through, and then we're going to join with an invisible stitch to that first slip stitch. Get a big-eyed needle or a darning needle and thread it up with a piece of yarn that you've got left, and we're going to make our own stitch. You can see that our stitches are little V's. Now the stitch that we're going to join into is not the first chain, it's actually the first slip stitch, which is where my needle is at the moment, into that V, into that first slip stitch. And we're going to make a nice even stitch that will look the same. So to make an invisible stitch, we insert our needle under both loops of the first stitch at the right hand side, and then we insert our needle through the centre of the very last stitch, going through the back, making sure that you don't actually see your yarn at the front, of course. And you can see that makes a really nice little V stitch. You can hardly see it, hence the name invisible stitch. We then just weave our yarn in at the back to finish. And we're now ready to start our border. That's our slip stitch row all done.